Hello again, basketball fans. Welcome to another edition of High School Hoops Weekly. We are well into the playoffs, and we didn't quite get to the 22 games in 5 days like some other news outlets might claim they did. But I can promise you that the games we did get to, we stayed till the end of. We enjoyed every minute of all the action that we could. And Powell, you were in a few of the gyms by yourself.
Absolutely.
A lot of teams made it to the playoffs. You got to see a lot of the action. Break down a little bit for me of what we saw this week.
Absolutely. Well, we had a ton of teams in the playoffs. There's so many teams in there. So we're just going to take it from the top, run it down, starting with the 4A girls. A lot of teams in this bracket. The Mid-Eastern Conference had a lot of really good teams, and we started off with that #1 seed, Hoggard. We're going undefeated through the Mid-Eastern Conference and taking on the upstart wild card, Ashley, which made it into the playoffs after a really strong late season run into the tournament. That game got a little bit ugly. I think Hoggard handled Ashley pretty well. A 20-point game for most of the game. Some really strange things started happening at the end of the game there. Ashley got a little bit chippy. Hoggard got a little bit chippy back. Not exactly the greatest inning to a game, but Hoggard managed to come away with the win. The Vikings went on to lose in the second round to Southeast Raleigh. A disappointing loss for them. They really wanted to get back at Southview in the regional, but didn't work out that way. So Hoggard's knocked out in the second round. Laney girls lost an absolute heartbreaker. You got to feel for these guys. Carbunia Truesdale had played a phenomenal game and missed the last free throw with less than 10 seconds remaining in the game. Missed the last free throw that could have tied it, and East Wake went on to win. A heartbreaker for that team, but really a great turnaround for Laney, a great season overall. To really come out of nowhere at Christmas and be second place in the conference, and really a good team, a great team in the playoffs.
And that's the Mid-Eastern girls, and I actually got a chance to cover that Hoggard loss, and no shame in those losses. Very good teams that they fell to, and hopeful next season for both of them.
Absolutely, yeah. And moving on to the 4A boys, you've got Hoggard knocked out Southeast Raleigh in the first round. They're the #2 seed out of that Mid-Eastern Conference. They lost to Terry Sanford in the second round. Right. That Terry Sanford team actually went through two Mid-Eastern Conference teams, beat the Ashley boys in the first round, and then down Hoggard in the second round. Laney boys, another painful loss for Laney, fell in the first round to Hoke County. That's such a tough loss for Laney. Really kind of a disappointing end of that season. They really sputtered down the stretch. Right. As we've spoken about before, won the Brogden tournament, started out 14-0 and ended up losing in the first round in a really tough game. So tough end of the season for Laney, but they've got a lot of youth back. Very good juniors, Kadeem Allen and Elijah Wilson. A lot of really good pieces coming back on that team.
Dangerous, you'd say, for next year?
Absolutely, more than dangerous. More than dangerous. They're going to be a really tough team to beat. I don't think anyone wants to take on those two guards. Right. Really athletic, great shooters. I really enjoy watching them play, so that's going to be fun to watch for next year as well. Moving down into the 3A boys, South Brunswick made a nice little run. Fell in the second round to West Craven, but still, as a close game. South Brunswick always plays these close games. They really like to slow the ball down and take it one possession at a time. So South Brunswick had a nice run in the 3A boys. Moving down to the 2A boys, West Bladen out of nowhere in the Waccamaw. Waccamaw Conference champions. Now in the regionals after making a really strong run. Nobody else out of that. Whiteville made a nice little run. The 2A bracket, Waccamaw wasn't quite as strong playoff-wise as we might have liked it to be, but a lot of teams had some solid seasons, but there's just so much talent in the 2A boys. So hard to get out of anything out there.
Single elimination, you never know when you're going to fall. You always try to put your best foot forward. It just didn't really happen for any area teams right there.
Not in that 2A bracket. There's so much talent with Kinston and Bedingfield and a lot of these other teams that are so talented. Right. It's just so hard. That bracket is so competitive. There's not really an easy game once you get past the first round. Right. So a lot of the teams just were very good, just not quite as good as they needed to be to beat those powerhouse teams.
Moving down to the little bit of the smallers and the 2A girls, how did those play out?
2A girls, we've talked about it so much. East Bladen having an absolutely stellar season again. Yep. They're going back to the regionals, powered through the tournament until the last round on Friday, which I got a chance to cover against Northside out of Jacksonville. East Bladen trailed by 10 points in the second half, but Courtney Belvin dropped 15 points in the fourth quarter, was perfect from the field, and had the go-ahead bucket and foul with 21 seconds remaining. So Courtney Melvin putting her team on her back. She really wants a state title. They look like they're probably going to get there.
I don't think a week goes by when we don't mention her name. Real deal.
Really, not at all. We've given some Courtney Melvin some serious love,
Yes.
And East Bladen as well. And they, to be honest, they deserve it. Courtney Melvin is the most dominant player in 2A. You cannot stop her.
Right.
Northside at the last play of the game on Friday, Northside had 4 players on Melvin's back. She still got the shot up, still made the bucket, and still got the foul. So, I mean, I don't know what you want to do to guard Courtney Melvin. There's not really a good strategy.
Maybe defend with 6.
Yeah, you really need you really need an extra man to defend Courtney Melvin.
I don't think that's allowed. But let's go down to the 1As now.
Yeah, the 1A bracket, the 1A girls, the Pender girls are after losing their point guard, Alyssa Jordan. That's a big loss for them. She was a really kind of a person that got everything going, was really good for them as a ball handler and let everybody else work off the ball, which is what they needed to do. Without her, they struggled a little bit, lost in the second round. So to be honest, that's probably better for the boys team because now Coach Gary Battle, who coaches both boys and girls at Pender, gets to focus on the boys. And, and speaking of the boys in 1A, gosh, Pender boys are unbelievably good, incredibly good. Running through the entire bracket. They had a 30-point lead to West Columbus at one point on Friday. Let West Columbus come back, made it a 10-point game, basically because they just stopped playing in the second half. But still, Pender looking really, really good. The depth they have is unbelievable. The depth of this Pender boys team, they go 9 deep. You just don't see that in 1A. They could compete in the Mid-Eastern Conference right now.
That's a team that we've kind of documented throughout the season as well. And you hate to see that a team has to fall out to get Coach Battle's attention for one team. But if you're going to see it, you want to get a positive result out of it, and you figure they're going to challenge for a state title.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no question that they've got more talent than most teams in the 4A bracket, much less most teams in the 1A bracket. But it's a very tough 1A bracket. James Keenan, for example, that team that we talked about last week with Pender running them out of the gym in the Tri-County Conference Tournament, took down the number 3 ranked team in the state in the first round, Princeton. So there's a lot of talent in that 1A bracket. And then James Keenan lost the next week. So there's a lot of good basketball in 1A. It's not just the big schools. The little schools are doing well too.
Well, that's where we're at right now. We started with a whole bunch of teams. We've broken down what they've done, how they've gone through. And if you were counting at home, it sounds like we have 3 area teams left.
We do. We have 3. East Bladen out of the Waccamaw and the girls, Pender out of the Tri-County and the boys in the 1A, and New Hanover, surprisingly enough, making it out of the Mid-Eastern Conference in the 4A boys.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's change it up a little bit. We do your 3-pointer every week. We have 3 teams left. Give us your predictions on those 3 teams.
Okay. You guys are going to put me on the spot here. New Hanover boys we'll start with New Hanover. These guys have completed a great run through the postseason. They're not that imposing of a team. They don't have that superstar. Yes, Freddie Jackson's a very good player. He made me look really good by dropping 34 points the other night after I wrote a feature about him. Thanks, Freddie. But they just don't have. There are a lot of teams in 4A that have that elite Division I prospect. They don't have that. They just keep winning games. You just don't. There's no real good way to describe it. They just keep winning games. In games decided by 5 points or less, New Hanover is 7-2 on the year. That's a stat that you want to watch out for, especially in the playoffs when these guys know how to win. They've learned it all year. They've got some good experience in James Hill and Freddie Jackson, and they've got a great point guard in Jackson who knows how to make everybody else better. So as far as that goes, Wakefield, by comparison, in games decided by 5 points or less, Wakefield, 4-2. So there's a little bit of New Hanover's got a little bit of an edge if it goes to a close game. So I think New Hanover's got a chance to win. I think they do win. If you check the blog post a little bit before this, Tim Hauer said, our basketball guru Tim Hauer said New Hanover's probably going to lose to Wakefield, which, at this point it's a toss-up. So, that's point number 1. I'm going to have to go with New Hanover over Wakefield in that one.
So there you go, a 2-minute description on why they might, possibly win, and we think they're going to win. So moving on now to East Bladen. This is a team that's dominated throughout. They've got to a point where they got challenged a little bit, and now they've overcome that. Courtney Melvin, obviously another great game. What do they do now?
Well, I think the key for East Bladen is to make sure that you don't let those same things beat you. Northside went through a pretty standard blueprint for beating East Bladen. Put 3 girls around Courtney Melvin and hope that everybody else beats you. East Bladen jacked an enormous amount of 3-point shots, didn't make any of them. I think it had 1 3-pointer on the game. That's not going to cut it. I'm sorry, it's just not going to get it. You got to get your shooters better. and spread the floor and give Courtney some room to work down there. So I think East Bladen has shown a little bit of weakness, but I still think they're going to power through. The Northwood team East Bladen got the best draw out of that possible. Northwood is 20-9. That's the worst record of anybody left in the 2A regional standings. So I think East Bladen wins that one. The regional final, I'm less sold on, so I'm not gonna touch that one yet. But I think at least in their first game, East Bladen's gonna take care of business.
Yeah, you can't look ahead till you beat the first one anyway. So we got a prediction for a victory there. We got one team left on the docket here, Pender boys. You said they were pretty dominant. Do they continue to roll?
Pender boys are gonna win a state title. I mean, that's all there is to it. The only team that can stop Pender boys is Pender boys. Mm-hmm. If they mail in games like they did that second half on Friday, they're going to get beat. But if they play hard, there's no one in 4A, 2A, 3A that can touch them. They've got that much talent. 2 Division I prospects on that team: Addison Sproul, Kenyon Pittman. Both Division I prospects, both getting looks at by VCU, James Madison, schools of that nature. So, yeah, they're going to win a state title.
So maybe you can look ahead.
I can't. I'm taking a leap of faith and say, please don't let me down, Pender boys. I'm calling you're going to win a state title.
Well, Coach Battle's got his undivided attention on that boys team now. They're rolling. We have an East Bladen prediction for a victory, and we have a new Hanover team that can win the close games, and we also have a prediction for a victory there. So we may be doing some more work next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy Saturday if I'm right.
We'll bring on a busy Saturday. Simple enough. We knocked it down this week, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna hit the road to Fayetteville here next week, and yeah, good luck to all the area teams.
Well, as always, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Schoonmaker along with Powell, Latimer.